a good relationship or a great relationship is built on two people choosing each other. It is not just about feeling desired and chosen. That's the fairy tale version that we are brought up on.
Welcome to Project Loving Myself, the podcast where we dive deep into the messy, beautiful journey of self-discovery, self-love, and healing. I'm your host, Sanaya Gurnamal, relationship reinvention coach and love alchemist. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. Let's start this journey together on Project Loving Myself. Welcome back to Project Loving Myself, where we stop proving and start choosing ourselves. Now, let's be honest. A lot of people go on dating apps hoping someone will swipe right, start the conversation, and choose them. But in all that hoping to be chosen, it's easy to forget that dating is not just about being picked. It's also about asking yourself, do I actually want this? Because the real shift happens when you stop focusing so much on whether they like you and start paying attention to whether this connection actually feels right for you. Joining me today is Talia Koren, founder of Dating Intentionally, podcast host, content creator, and entrepreneur who helps people date with more confidence, more clarity, and more ease. After a big breakup, Talia went on 64 first dates in under 10 months before meeting her now husband on a dating app. Now she helps singles date with purpose, build stronger connections, and have a lot more fun along the way. Talia, welcome to Project Loving Myself. I'm so glad to have you here.
Me too. Thank you for the intro. I am so excited to get into it with you.
Oh my God, Talia, 64 first dates. How can we not jump right into that? I mean, that is just so juicy. Tell me about why you went on so many dates, what that was like, and what was the mission?
So I did not aim to go on that many first dates. Let's make that really clear. I was just enjoying myself so much that I had a lot of momentum with dating that it was pretty easy to rack up those numbers. And I want to say to anyone listening who's single, you don't have to do that to find your person. A lot of those first dates could have been emails. I did not have to go on that many.
Okay.
But to answer your question, my mission initially, especially in the first 6 months or so, was just getting those reps in, just dating, bringing all of the knowledge I had picked up in therapy, in my last relationship, in the books I was reading into dating. That was my mission. I was so excited to finally be an adult with money, with a career, like knowing who I am and actually like, what is dating like when I'm this version of myself? And I had a blast.
And were most of your dates like good dates, or did you have a lot of those really like, I mean, I know you said there were some of them that could have been emails.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more. I mean, right
Sure.
now it just sounds great. Was there anything like you're like, oh, I don't want to ever do that again?
Oh yeah, I definitely had a couple like train wreck dates, but nothing that deterred me. I was lucky in that I didn't have any issues regarding my safety. I didn't run into anything where I was like, oh gosh, I need to take a big step back. I didn't really get super hurt along the way. Of course, I had ups and downs, but there was nothing like a heartbreaking moment where I was like, I am done. Most of my dates were boring, middle of the road. And honestly, I would take a middle of the road date over a bad date any day. And of course, some were fantastic. And I really treated this whole thing like an experiment. I wanted to learn as much as I could. Following my 6-year relationship, and then I was in a long-term relationship, 2 of them for most of my 20s, like back to back. So I was more just like, who am I not in a relationship? That was the question I was aiming to answer. But I think you can do that while dating. You don't have to just swear off men or women or whatever to figure that out. You can still explore and not get into a relationship. So I would say the first chunk of that dating journey, I wasn't even looking for a relationship. And that does make dating pretty easy as a woman. I'm not going to lie.
So you weren't as emotionally invested in kind of finding the one. You were actually enjoying dating because you had been kind of tied down, even though I don't know if I want to use those words, but you were in a long-term relationship for a big part of your life. So it was more like, let me date because that's something I haven't gotten to do.
Yeah, especially again, as an adult with more knowledge and a way more emotional intelligence and maturity. and just self-worth, because in college in my early 20s, I can't say I had those things at all.
Yeah.
Um, and my long-term relationship, the guy I dated for 6 years, great guy, just not my person. I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate. And I'm really glad I pulled myself out of that because we were talking about getting married.
Oh,
And
wow.
my gut was screaming at me, like, do not marry this person. After 6 years, it would have happened already if it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really interesting point that a lot of people, I think, stay in relationships for a pretty long time. And maybe
Hmm.
that's a signal that, this isn't the person for you if you're not able to kind of take the next step from there. So that's kind of a very
Yeah.
interesting tangent to go on. But I do have some more questions on the
Yeah, absolutely.
64
Let's
date.
talk about that for sure.
Okay. So would you say, Talia, it was almost like dating yourself? Because for those 64 dates, I heard you say like you wanted to know who you are. You're this woman who has a job, you have money, like you want to discover who you are. So was it a bit like with every date you learned something about yourself? You learned who you are with other people? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it was very much dating myself or like learning about myself through the lens of dating. And I was really set on not making the same mistakes I had made that got me into the relationship I wasn't really enjoying. So I was like, okay, what
Right.
can I do differently? How can I treat dating differently? And that's where that being the chooser mindset comes in. That's where, focusing on if I like them, not the other way around. And I was able to kind of fix my picker, if that, I don't love that phrase, but you know what I mean? I was able to
Yeah.
shift my priorities from finding the hot guy to finding the guy who accepts me and who I accept. Like that was, and it's a different type of guy actually.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I had to kind of come to terms with that. And I was also just learning, I think dating is a skill, just like
Mhm.
anything else. Dating is a training ground for relationships. Like this is where you actually learn how to communicate directly. This is where you learn how to not ghost, not do the lazy thing, and actually say the scary thing
Yeah.
of rejecting people. It's where you actually face rejection. It's where you learn how to do all this stuff. So I was treating it as that, as like a gym, training for the relationship I wanted to be in.
What can I do differently? Right?
Yeah.
Like that to me was just a really, really interesting question because I think a lot of people who've come out of long term relationships or even just really bad endings, right? Bad like breakups, they go into their next relationship hoping the same thing won't happen again, right? They're coming from this place of like, oh my God, I don't want to get hurt again. What is this person? What do they mean? Are they kind of, is there any trigger that's going to remind me of my past relationships? So they're always kind of trying to protect themselves from what could possibly happen again, right? But you asked a different question. For you, it was like, well, what can I do differently? Which is so empowering, right? That is amazing. That is so empowering. And the other thing about it is it forces you to look at your own behavior and your own way of interacting with people and trying to see if you can be more maybe intentional or maybe be more aware of how you're showing up. So tell me about that. Like
Yeah.
that's just such an interesting question. How did you come up with that? How did it help you?
Well, I think this is something you talk about on your show too, is just like focusing on what you can control. And what you can control is yourself and how also your beliefs about yourself and all that inner stuff. So I think really leaning into that instead of, to your point, putting myself in victim mode of, oh, these things are happening to me. And it's like, no, no, no. I can choose to leave the dynamics that I don't want to be part of. I can choose to communicate what I want up front instead of waiting to see what they say, which is, I think, the passive route. But how I actually did this was I was tracking my patterns. That's how I approached dating. I was a scientist. Okay. Like I had a note in my phone where I took notes on every single date. Well, with more every single person I dated, not every single date, but every single person has like little notes next to it. I had an emoji key system to track what was happening on every, because I was seeing so many people. And like, I'm very visual, so I needed this emoji
Wow.
key. It was so fun. I highly recommend for anyone, any type A listeners, to do this. And it helped me really see like, okay, what am I doing over and over that keeps getting me into connections where a certain result is happening? Like there's a disconnect or we just don't get each other, or there's just some, or they ghost me. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So having that in my face really helped me see what I was doing. And I was able to pinpoint certain moments in dating where I could have done things differently. And I'm like, okay, the next time I go out with someone, I'm going to try something different and see if that changes anything. And I just did that over and over and over.
Wow. I mean, that is amazing because
It's a
that's
really nerdy approach to dating.
it's nerdy, but that's what people go to a coach for. They need someone to help them see the patterns that they can't see when they're inside of them. So I love that you did that. Now, Talia, I'm curious. What did you find out about your patterns? Like, what did you see that forced you to either change or, approach it differently?
Yeah, so there are two things that I can definitely were easy ones to figure out pretty early on. One is the habit of future faking. This is when you get really excited about a connection and you just kind of start talking about the future very early on, like, oh, I'm so excited to travel with you, but you've only been on 2 dates. Or I'm so excited to meet your parents, your sister, you'd meet my parents, and it's like we have known each other a week. So I would catch myself on dates. I hear myself do this, and it's like, okay, this needs to stop. So I really had to work on filtering myself a little bit. Again, it's not like I'm undateable or I'm a huge red flag. I could just tell it wasn't the right vibe that I was trying to give off. I was not trying to rush, but I could hear myself doing that. And I think part of it just came from this desire to be liked, this desire to be like, hey, I'm in this, I'm here, I'm enthusiastic, I'm eager. And it's like, okay, there are other ways to communicate enthusiasm and interest that are a little bit more appropriate for how long you've known them.
Okay.
So that was something I would hear myself doing. I'm like, okay, I need to stop that. But the biggest thing I think was sleeping with people too early. And I think this is a huge trap. Look, for everyone listening, I think if you sleep with someone on the first date, it does not mean you're doomed. It doesn't mean it's over. It's never going to work out. Of course, we all know people who've done this and it's fine. But for me, and you have to know yourself, I would detach like a man, basically, the second I would get post-nut clarity, but as a woman, and I think I used to lean more avoidantly attached. So I think the overdose of intimacy would make me dial it way back. That was the pattern that I noticed. So okay, I need to slow down the intimacy so that I can let an emotional connection form before I sleep with someone, to really make sure I know their relationship material before I take that step, knowing my pattern of ejecting myself the second we get too close.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of self-awareness though for someone, who has come out of two long relationships and then now is suddenly in the dating world. I love that. And I love how that actually helped you be more intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like you said,
And I have nothing.
God,
I'm sex positive. There's nothing wrong with doing it early on if you want it. If that works for you, it just wasn't working for me.
okay. And then
Yeah.
how did you meet your husband, your now husband,
Yeah.
from
So
the sixth,
okay,
fourth, or earlier than that date?
this is a bit of a story. So I was dating someone. I really hit it off with the 50th guy I met. Okay. So we actually dated for a month, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was just everything was firing on all cylinders. Every part of the connection was really working, and we were aligned. We wanted the same thing. There were no obstacles that I could see. But after a month, he ended it with me because he discovered my dating Instagram page. And it was before I had a chance to tell him. And of course, I learned that lesson. I need to tell people extremely early on so that they don't find out through other channels and kind of make their own assumptions. And then that happened. So that sucked. So right after that, I, took a couple of days to kind of just process what happened. But I got back on the apps pretty quickly. And I made the decision to stop talking about my first date so much online. I was like, because what happened was one of my followers actually reached out and was like, did you know this girl is talking about you? It was very petty. Anyway, the week after that happened, I somehow set up 7 dates in a week, which I, again, do not recommend. Don't do this. And one of them was my now husband. So I had no idea when we matched on Hinge that this was going to be my person. I honestly, when I saw his profile, I didn't find anything to be super excited about, but I also couldn't find a reason to swipe left. I was like, there's nothing wrong with this profile. So I'm going to reach out. I know it sounds backwards, but that's literally where my mind was at. And that's how I was able to get so many dates. I kind of was just like, okay, this person actually, there's some things we have in common. I reached out. I was like, what audiobooks are you listening to? We started a conversation. We talked for a week. Then I was like, okay, let's meet for coffee. I'm a huge fan of just don't wait for the guy to do it. If you want to meet them, just say, hey, I want to meet you. You don't have to plan the date. You just be like, hey, let's meet. I'm good here. We're done with this part. Let's move it along. And so he was like, I actually am not in your city. He kind of location fished me. He had to set his location to my city because he was moving there. And when I found that out, we had already been talking for a week. And I was like, I never rolling my eyes and be like, oh my God, fine. Like, let's do the video date. So our first date was a video call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And how long did it take for you to go from that first week to knowing like you wanted to spend your life with each other?
I didn't know until like 4 or 5 months into dating that he was the one for me, and we both kind of came to that conclusion around the same time. But after our first video call date, we didn't meet in person for another month following that. So we had 4 virtual dates, video call, phone call situations before our first actual date. And in the meantime, I was dating other people. I wasn't like, when I had our first video call date coming off of it, I was like, I will probably never hear from this man again. I just had this feeling. I'm like, he's probably talking to other girls like in Seattle, doing these video call dates. Like, I'm never going to hear from him. But I did. And I kept hearing from him and he kept showing up. And he was very persistent, but in a very quiet, confident way. That was very attractive to me. He wasn't like needy. He wasn't needing reassurance, needing all my attention. Like, it was just very like, I'm just here and I'm not going anywhere kind of energy.
Wow. Sounds amazing.
He is. And like at first, again, I was dating a lot of people. I didn't stop seeing other people. He was the 56th person I met out of the 64. So that's how many people I kept seeing after. And I just, again, it was the kind of thing where like, I don't see any red flags. I like spending time with him. I don't have a reason to reject this person. So I'm going to keep going. I know it's backwards. That's really where my mindset was at.
You know, there's one thing I've learned about love is there's no right way to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I've seen the most unexpected situations turn into, forever. And I've seen people who look like they are perfect for each other and it just doesn't work. So, and I know you've probably seen the same thing. So I love that your story's so unique. And maybe it isn't so unique after all, right?
Right. Well, all it is just like, I think what I learned from this is if you are having fun and if you don't see any major deal breakers, keep going. Don't look for reasons to reject someone if you're having a good time. Because that's really what it's about in early dating is, are you having fun with them? Do you look forward to seeing them? And if you haven't discovered any other deal breakers like kids, marriage, religion, whatever is important to you, keep going. Let it play out.
Yeah. And a lot of women, I think, Talia, they overthink, the whole dating game. They're questioning themselves. They're questioning the situation. What would you say to someone who is having a hard time with, the whole dating space, and maybe they're overthinking, maybe they are doing some of those behaviors that you called out in yourself? What would you say to them?
If you're overthinking, there's one aspect of unpacking that, and that's something you do with yourself, your therapist, and your journal. You're not doing that unpacking with the people you're dating. You're not going to be using them as a receptacle for your figuring out your stuff early on. And the other side of it is focusing on the fun. Like, find the parts of dating that you actually enjoy. For me, it was exploring new restaurants and bars and getting ready. Those are the parts I look forward to. They're like, how do you look forward to going on dates with all these people? It's like, I wasn't even really looking forward to the guy. I was looking forward to the opportunity to leave my apartment looking cute and going to a new bar. Like, that is really what got me going more than anything else. So I think finding the fun and unpacking your overthinking, like, dating is the best opportunity to work on yourself. Like, go figure it out. And that's your own journey, like, work through it. And then my third tip for overthinking is really lower the stakes, right? You're not going to trip and fall into the wrong relationship. It doesn't just happen like that.
Mm.
It's a process. Like it's okay. You can go slow and you can pause. And it's okay if it doesn't work out. Like when I was dating Johnny, my husband, I didn't need it to work out. That's why I didn't care if he responded to me. That's why I didn't care if he asked me out again. I'm like, look at all these other people I'm seeing. It doesn't matter if this one does not work out because if I knew inevitably for sure that it would work out eventually. So lower the stakes, I think, is really helpful for overthinking.
But for a lot of women, it's very hard to not care. I
Yeah.
know for you, like that was a really big part of why you seem to have a lot of fun with it because you weren't really, you weren't as invested.
I have a reason for that. And that is on the other side of putting energy into dating, I accepted a life where I would never meet anyone. Sat down after my breakup and I was like, oh my gosh, for the first time in my life, I can do whatever I want. And at first it was scary. It's like, wait, I don't have to talk to someone about what we're doing with our money and our time. What? So I'm like, wait a minute, I have this opportunity to envision the best life possible without ever meeting someone. What does that look like? So knowing I have that keeps me feeling so secure. It's like, even if my marriage doesn't work out, I'll be okay. I really would be
Right.
okay. It would suck, but in the end, I'd be fine because I know exactly what the life alone looks like that I would love to live.
So, what you had was detachment, right? Because you're like, even if I don't meet anyone, it's okay. I'll be okay." And then you had this whole like, "I don't really care because I'm just having fun." And, that's what I'm doing. I'm getting dressed up. I'm trying out different restaurants. I'm just having fun. I'm not trying to be chosen by someone. I'm not trying to be liked by anyone. I'm just having a good time. How do people get into that state of mind of like, I don't need to be liked. I don't need to be chosen? Because I think that's what trips up a lot of people when they're dating.
Well, I think I matured into this of realizing that a good relationship or a great relationship is built on two people choosing each other. It is not just about feeling desired and chosen. That's the fairy tale version of that we are brought up on. And you realize that actually a relationship is not the meaning of life. It's not supposed to be the most exciting, best thing in your life, that you're still responsible for your happiness. Your partner isn't. So it's like kind of really zooming out and recognizing where a relationship fits into your life and how and what it's actually supposed to do. Like, why do you even want a relationship? If you only want a relationship to feel validated and chosen, that's something to look into. That's a wound that you need to tend to on your own. A partner isn't going to fix that. It's never going to be enough.
No.
It's never going to be enough. It's not about loving yourself first necessarily, but I think at least really enjoying the life you have, you know, alone, really building that out because you have every opportunity to when you're single and in a relationship, but especially when you're single.
Talia just touched on something so important: how our patterns shape the way we date more than we realize. So if you want to understand your own love patterns more clearly, take my Love Blocks quiz at sanayagurnamal.com/love blocks-quiz. You'll also find the link in the show notes. I mean, I think it's dating from a place where you know who you are. At least
Yeah.
you know some. I mean, in your case, you were also discovering who you are, and I think that's part of it. But you did have some sense of self going into this, right? Going on all those dates. I think that was one really interesting thing. And another,
Yeah, it didn't matter what they thought of me. I really did not care. Like,
yeah. And so what you had was a sense of self-worth, right? I mean, if it comes down to it, you went into these, not really relationships, but you went on all these dates
connections.
these connections with a sense of worth. How did you get there, Talia?
I think part of it is like the nurture factor. I think part of it is like how I grew up and just who I like in my DNA. I've always just kind of walked to the beat of my own drum. I'm used to just doing my own thing and I like being different. I've always enjoyed that. I've always like if something's mainstream, I'm not doing it, like that kind of personality. So that's like a little bit who I am. But I also think that I spent thousands of dollars on with a therapist. I worked with one therapist for at least 6 years through my previous relationship and breakup and everything. And that helped me so much, like really understanding how my emotions work, my thoughts, my behaviors. Like I did CBT and that really, really helped me, I think, just like be grounded in who I am. Also, the artist way helped me a lot. Yeah, everyone has like an artist way moment.
Yeah.
I think and I had mine as part of my healing from my breakup because that was really hard. And I also just know it's like we only get one life. Really believe in living for yourself. And really, I think part of it is also my parents divorced when I was in high school. And seeing my mom just kind of choose her own path really inspired me to do the same.
I love that. But really, what it is you did the inner work, right? You did
Yeah.
all the work.
It's messy, it's hard, it's scary, but yes, I did
You
it
did it.
and I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you
Still
did it
doing
for
it.
6 years. You did it, all throughout that. You did it. You're still doing it like you said. And I think that is the key, is for us to really have that strong sense of self and worth. It really is about finding out who you are and understanding yourself, your patterns, your own childhood influences. I mean, you know, coming from a family where your parents were divorced, that has a huge influence, a huge impact. And I think for a lot of us, we all have something in our story that makes us who we are. So I think it's very important to be conscious of that.
Sorry, I just want to say, like, I love the work that you're doing on your show. I think is also a huge part of this. Like, this is why your show is so important. And you're always also helping people in this process. I just want to call that out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Talia, how do we stay connected to ourselves while dating? Especially when it starts to feel exciting, consuming, it can be emotionally intense. How do we stay connected to what we want, to what we're there for? Because, you might go in with the intention and then lose yourself along the way.
Yeah, great question. So the first thing that came to my mind, I think, is making sure you're not making decisions when you are feeling high emotions, because dating is full of them. It's a minefield of triggers and anxiety and high emotions. So making sure that you're not deciding what you're doing with your dating life when you're on a really high or really low. And this is where I think a lot of people are like, I'm done with dating, because they just got ghosted and then they decide they're shooting from the hip. I'm done, over it. And it's like,
Yeah.
no. You're going to let a random stranger determine the trajectory of your life? No, come on. Like that's number one. I think staying connected is just making sure that you ride the emotions, feel them, give them space, but don't make decisions in that state. The second one, I think, is knowing your needs, which is something I talk about a lot in my work. And it's something that I worked on a lot, is just like knowing my core needs in a relationship to feel happy, and not, it's a balance of not settling for anything less and accepting the rest. So it's like, these are the most important things that I'm going to have, and I will accept everything else that comes with that. So I think that's kind of radical to hear, because we're always told, like, have your list, don't settle. And it's like, you kind of do settle sometimes. Like, settling down, choosing someone does mean settling. Like, you're not moving anymore. You're not searching anymore. So I think having those needs help me stay connected to myself, because I'm like, okay, I'm looking at my needs every single week. I kept this in my notes app. I looked at it after every date. I'm like, does this person meet my needs? And it's about yourself. It's dating selfishly. It's dating with you in the focus, instead of what they need, what they want, if they're going to be into you, if they're going to be able to work with your life. It's like, no. What do you want? What do you need? So that, I think, is key for staying connected.
Wow, I love both of those things, because they are a little bit rebellious, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people say don't settle. You're saying, well, you are kind of settling, so
You're gonna in some way, one way or another. You really, you can't have, like, Prince Charming does not exist. He is in fairy tales. Like, in the package that he comes in. All the good looks, all the money, all the status, the height, the amazing genes, whatever it is you're looking for. Like,
Right.
it's not a real person.
Tell me what happens after. So you did your 64 dates. You met your husband. Obviously, he moved to where you live.
Yeah.
And what was it like after that? As in, what I'm trying to understand is, if you're talking about the things that mattered, fulfilling your needs, are those things that stayed the same once are you married, or you just dating?
Yeah, we're married. Yep.
You're married, right? So
Yeah.
what changed after that, if at all?
Okay, so honestly, I was terrified when it got to the point where I was like, okay, this guy meets all the needs that I have on my list. 80%, it's never gonna be 100%, 80%. I think this is it for me. I'm going to be in a relationship with this person after going on this crazy dating journey. I cried. I was terrified. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm really going to give it a shot with this person. It was
Right.
scary. So that's one part of it. I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, it was perfect, all easy. It was not easy. You do a lot of work when you're single and dating and whatever. There's a whole other set of work that comes with when you're in a relationship. And
Yeah.
I'm currently preparing for the next set of work for when we have kids. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm cool now. Wait till it all cracks open when I become a mom. Like it's all going to be a completely different vibe. So
I mean, it's a
I
different
think
experience, right? At every
yes.
stage is a different experience. It asks
So
different things from you.
yes. So this relationship adds something different for me. It's the first like really secure relationship I've been in. So I was game. I put my game face on. I had to do more work to feel safe
Mhm.
in my first safe relationship, which doesn't feel safe if you've never experienced safety.
Of course.
So that's what happens after.
Okay. And you talked a lot about having fun while dating.
Yeah.
What would you say about being in a relationship? Like, is it still about having fun in the relationship, or do you look at it differently when you're in the relationship part of the?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, look, I think I chose someone fun and I think I'm fun. So we do have a lot of fun. We laugh constantly and there's a lot of giggling, a lot, all the time. So I think, is it still fun? Yes. I never expected my relationship to be a source of entertainment and excitement. That I think is setting people up for failure. Um, in the beginning, there's a honeymoon phase, but that doesn't last. And then the relationship becomes more stable. So, of course, I think that one of the biggest myths is that romance is effortless, seamless, and organic. I think romance takes effort. You have to plan it. You have to think about it. So we have a lot of structure in our relationship. We do check-ins every other week. We sit down twice a year to plan like the next 6 months of what we want to do. What vacations are we going on? Who do we want to see? Where are we going? That the fun takes a lot of thought. It's not just like going to happen. We do a weekly date night. We switch off who plans it. So we have a lot of structure for that.
And do you think that's because of your personalities, or do you think that's what every relationship needs?
I think every relationship probably needs a version of it.
Mhm.
Your people have so many different ways to inject spontaneity into their relationship. Like you could have a date night jar. You could have like all different kinds of fun ways to like do it. For us, we both are planners. We both live and die by Google Calendar, which is amazing. I love it. Like I love being in a relationship with someone who he's more on top of things and organized than me, and I'm pretty type A. So it works for
Wow.
us. Yeah. No, he's like, I'm telling you, like this is why I'm always like, don't don't pass the guys who look kind of meh on dating apps because people don't know how to write profiles really. Like he's like a PhD, he works at NASA. He doesn't know how to write a profile that's interesting. That's fine. Like, you know what I mean? It's like people look for something on the apps that people just can't provide,
Yeah.
or the average person can't provide. But yeah, he is way more on top of he's so much more organized than me. It's amazing.
I love how you brought up the thing about writing profiles, because a lot of people get help, right? To have this amazing dating profile. And the idea behind that really is you want to stand out. So you're going to be chosen, right? And here is a story of a situation where, this is a guy who didn't necessarily stand out. He didn't have the best dating profile. And he's the guy that you chose to be with after 64 dates. And he's the one that you have fun with. He's the one who's, in many ways, I think that because he knew who you were, and so you were able to recognize the kind of person that would fit, that would be really compatible with you. And I think what you're talking about is a very highly compatible relationship.
That took work though of discovering who I was, of really getting clear on what I needed to be happy and what doesn't matter. When I was in my 20s, I thought I needed someone who snowboards. That was actually literally like a non-negotiable for me. Like they must be into skiing or snowboarding or winter sports because I'm really into it. And I ended up with my ex because he had one picture of him snowboarding on his profile. Little did I know that was the only time he's ever been. That was the only time. Like, and it's just like how like the things you think matter just can lead you to the wrong person, and then you realize, oh, actually, this is what matters. And that's how you get into the right relationship. The needs thing is really, I think, the key to finding someone compatible.
Yeah, I love that. And I do a lot of work with needs as well, like just trying to understand what your needs are and then being able to act upon them or expressing them. So I love that you brought that up too, because that's something I completely resonate with. Okay,
Yeah.
looking back, what would you tell your younger self?
Which age?
The one who was about to go on those 64 dates.
Looking back, like if I had to do anything differently, I would say like use phone calls to screen people. You don't have to go on all those dates. Um, I think that's really number one thing, honestly. Like and also just trust the process, which I did at the time anyway, but I just remind myself to trust the process. Like you're going to find someone. And I did believe that, That's what I want to tell everyone. Like if you're looking for love, don't be ashamed or embarrassed. Do it out loud and trust that you will find someone if you stay open. That's your part of the deal. The universe will bring you someone, but you have to stay open.
If you knew you were going to end up with this person in this relationship, okay, would you have done anything differently?
No.
So
absolutely not.
Everything was exactly how you would have done it.
The only thing I wouldn't have done is like the 3 times I met up with my ex. That was useless. I should not have done that. That set me back. That's the only thing I wouldn't do differently.
I love that because there's so much like alignment with everything, right? It's like I did what I wanted to do. I explored, I had fun, I got to know myself in the process, and then I met the person that I'm spending my life with.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful.
I wouldn't have chosen him if I hadn't gone through all of that. I would have overlooked his profile. I would have not felt attraction on the second date and been like, nah. So yeah, I think I needed this experience to be able to get into this relationship.
So for someone who doesn't have either the time or the desire to go on those 64 dates before.
But you don't have to do it.
Right? They don't have to do it because you're going to tell them exactly what they need to know to be able to see that possibility that maybe sometimes they overlook. What would you say to that?
So I would say aim for like a good benchmark is 1 first date a month. Okay. That's 12 first dates a year. That's a really, really strong number of dates to aim for. You don't have to do more than that. So I think that's number 1. Number 2 is be open to dating outside of your type if you know you have a pattern. And my third tip is know if you're the kind of person who is too forgiving and overlooks red flags, or if you're the kind of person who looks for red flags and reasons to walk away. There's two types of people. Know which one you are and make shifts accordingly. That is going to be really, really helpful for finding your person.
Yeah. So adjust based on what your pattern is.
Yeah. And I think my pattern was definitely the latter, the looking for reasons to walk away.
Wow. And how did you overcome that? How did you adjust?
I focus on the positives. I focus on the positives. I learned to recognize my avoidant voice. I learned to recognize when that avoidant voice popped up. And I'm like, no, I see you, avoidance. I'm not listening to you anymore. We're going to do something different, even though it feels uncomfortable. So that repetition really helped me.
And how long, by the way, was the whole 64 date process? Was that 6 months? Was that longer?
It was 10 months. And then a year after I started dating, I was in a relationship with my now husband. I didn't date immediately after I broke up with my ex. I took some time to heal. And then when I started dating, it was 10 months. And then a year after that, so.
Wow, it's such an inspiring story, Talia. And this conversation has definitely been, I would say, eye-opening in so many different
so glad.
ways.
So glad. I hope listeners found something in there to take into their dating lives.
I'm sure they did. So tell me, Talia, what is your Project Loving Myself mantra or message that you'd like to share with our listeners? Something that has served you well in your own journey.
So I first heard this mantra in Amy Poehler's book about her career, and it is feel the fear and do it anyway. And that has always been something I think back on. Like, if I'm scared of something, that means I should do it. So, and I think that served me pretty well.
And when I look at you, that is what I see. Someone who is not afraid to feel the fear and to do it.
Yeah, I feel afraid, but it's not going to stop me.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Got my own back, Yeah, so that's my mantra for you.
Amazing. I love that. Talia, how do people follow you? Tell them about your podcast. How do they get in touch?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. Slide into my DMs anytime. I'm happy to answer questions. And you can find my podcast on any platform. It's called Dating Intentionally.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us on Project
Thank
Loving.
you.
As we come to the end of this episode, let this be a reminder. Dating doesn't have to be confusing, complicated, or intense. You can just have fun with it. And Talia shared so many great tips on how to do that. As George Bernard Shaw said, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. So go have fun, discover who you are, and stop putting so much pressure on yourself to get it right. Stop waiting to be chosen by somebody else and start choosing yourself. Make it about what you need, what you want, and discovering more about yourself. And it will feel so much lighter and more freeing. If this episode got you thinking, send it to someone who needs this reminder. Follow Project Loving Myself for new episodes and connect with me at Sanaya Gurnamal on all social channels. I'm particularly active on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time, you are loved.